Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon. So, firstly, welcome to the event. And when we talk about the panel, when we talk about the discussion, our topic is innovative strategies in management development programs. And when we talk about that, we talk about, nurturing talent. We talk about new people, especially the youth who are incoming, who are the next leaders in the industry. Before we start the discussion, I would like everyone to give a big round of applause for our dear panelists. So, Sulbha, being the woman here, the woman in power, so when we talk about these management development programs, when we talk about, nurturing talent, how do you think does resilience and adaptability work in, nurturing the young talent or nurturing the next lead of emerging talents?
Both resilience and agility are nothing that can be taught in textbooks, and the real world teaches you, by experience. And when you talk about a management development program, etc., I believe this is very inert. This is something that comes. I say aptitude can be developed, attitude cannot be, and that is a part of an attitude. How resilient you are to a situation, how agile you are. Because I represent a world which is a startup world. And in my 7 years of experience of being in the startup, while we may have grown, we have still maintained that startup mentality, which means, and even Amazon, by the way, despite of being for so many years now, they say the day they come is that day one, right? So that's how they approach to every situation. And that's very similar in lot of progressive startups, because for us, we don't really plan for 5 years or 10 years. We plan for quarter. And that's where the lot of agility needs to come in, because you have to be flexible. The micro and the macro environment keeps changing a lot. And how are you adapting it? And how open are you in terms of picking up the learnings? What's the external market doing, and how does it impact your organization? So you have to continuously keep weighing all the pros and cons, the opportunities and the threats lies. And when you say resilience, it's all about, I prefer the word grit, because, never giving up is most important. Times are tough. In those tough times, how do you, navigate yourself and take yourself and your organization to the next level? That's extremely important. So like I said, these are very inert abilities. One should definitely build upon them. And in the previous session where Praveen Purohit spoke about self-awareness, this is one kind of a self-awareness that people should develop on terms of how agile you are, how resilient you are to situations, to people, to decisions. So very, very critical skills to succeed.
Understood. Nitin, for you on this aspect, if I come to you, because you have been a part of both startup as well as a non-startup, how, in your head, how do you think resilience and adaptability can be cultivated in the emerging leaders, in the next set of leaders that we look into now?
So the first thing I would like to talk about is that startup is all about resilience and agility. Okay, because I have worked in 2 startups and have interacted with a couple of founders. One of the things is that there the business model or business plan gets pivoted maybe every 2 meetings or maybe every quarter, because they are trying to do things which have not been done in the past. Hence, you try and you fail fast and you learn from there. So one of the things is that when you're getting people, the mindset has to be there, because the work and the way you operate is so different from the traditional organizations, because there you're not talking about growing by a double digit in a year. You're talking about probably doubling in a year, or maybe 3 times, 4 times. And that mindset is there. The challenge is how effectively you are able to do it, because many times what happens in startups, opportunity of exposure, opportunity of try things, new things is always there. But the thing which often gets missed is I go learning. I have seen people they end up saying, I have done 10 new things, okay, in one month, okay, to get to the result. The idea is, what have you learned from these 10? Very often this gets missed in a startup world, because when we end up talking about agility in Indians, people say that, okay, quickly changing or pivoting your plan is a way of demonstrating agility. The idea is that learning in that is far more important to be agile rather than just changing. So I think our focus has always been in terms of how are you ensuring that whatever you're doing fast, you're also learning fast on them. It's not about changing fast, it's about learning fast. And I think that has been the motto that we have in our organization, because when we were, and one of the biggest problem that we have in startups is that the first time managers, because you grow very fast. When you grow, you have the domain expertise, but you don't know how to work it. And for that, you have to cultivate that. And that's one thing where we have invested in ensuring, that grooming young leader requires a mindset which is very different, giving them time to think. And in some of the places, we have actually gone to the extent in terms of saying that, okay, after a quarter, the things that you have done and you have failed, what was that one learning that you learned and how you implement it? I think the focus towards that becomes very important, because I think today, as someone was also talking in the earlier panel, laptop is your window to the world, yes. But when you have too much of knowledge, it always confuses you and you don't know what. The problem is not that knowledge is not available. The problem is you don't know what to implement when, the context and the depth of it. I think that's one thing from agility and resilience we need to understand. How are we imparting that depth to the people, emerging leaders, because that's very important. I mean, when I started my career, for me, okay, once you joined the organization, you thought about, okay, I have to stay there for 3 years, 5 years, and then make a career out of it. But today, loyalty and also changes. I'm affecting the role, I will change the role every year. Organization has to keep me motivated. So I think these elements become very important when we start talking about agility and resilience to my fan.
Understood. So, very insightful actually. So we touched upon, resilience, we touched upon agility, adaptability. Sudip, if I come to you on this, like there are so many aspects, like when I speak to the leaders of the industry, the one thing that everyone keeps on saying is nurturing young talent. This is apparently my favorite word too, that how, when you speak to the new people, how do you innovate new strategies? Our, panel discussion is also about, innovating new strategies. What is your standpoint? Can you share an instance where you have seen an example of how innovation has, been a plant in the learning of nurturing talent?
Thanks, Reema. So, Reema, I'll take the liberty of using an analogy to kind of answer the question. So, be it professional life or personal life, many times you are presented with different roads, right? We are racing and there are different roads ahead of us. Goal is to get to the end of the road, but we are not able to decide which road to take, because each road has its own pros and cons. And traditionally, many times we are all spending time innovating or trying to figure out which is the best road to take. But I have seen, and I'll use the word empowerment, be it in your own life or in professional life, we spend a lot of time trying to decide which road to take. And in the course, we spend a lot of time trying to prepare the car which we are going to drive. So you are adjusting the seat, painting the car, clearing the visor, and you feel that you're driving towards your goal. But be it professional life or personal life, a moving car is much easier to steer than the car which is not moving. Trust me, when you start driving, even if you're on the wrong road, you come back and start on the second road, you're better positioned to win that race versus somebody who hasn't started driving. So, Reema, to the question of what drives, I think it's just about start driving. Because in life, most of the time what happens is when you start driving, it's not about whether you're on the right road or not. You are still better positioned to win if you are on the wrong road. But many times in life, what happens is you discover new routes. So innovation is not just about finding new ways of doing things. It's also about discovery. And there I see empowerment as the biggest tool to kind of move forward.
Have you seen any such instances where you have actually figured that, okay, this is where, when you talk about discoveries, have you seen a placement where you have innovated new strategies, like created new strategies, or you have witnessed, someone using some implementation or, some kind of budget being allocated? Do you see those things happening, to cultivate, the new talent into the industry? Just motivate or empower as well.
So I'll use a personal example here. Early days in my career in City, young graduates out of college, the management decided to just empower all the functional heads with a budget, right? We were just managers and we were given $70,000. They said, your only objective or your mandate is you have to spend it. You cannot not spend it. And we went, humko bahut ajeeb lagta tha, you people, how come, such a... So we went about spending it. And what do you think happened in the first year? It was a disaster. The money went away and nothing happened. But when it came to the next year on repeating that, the management chose to do it again. But this time they said that, hey, look into what went wrong. Because we were spending a lot either too early or too late. And this time, that same empowerment to go and spend worked favorably for the organization. And we had fantastic results. So in brief, what I'm trying to drive is that empowerment to go and do it. At the same time, learn from what you have already done, and rather than taking away that liberty, allowed all of us to actually progress, prosper, and learn.
Understood. So what I understood out of it is that resilience, adaptability, agility, and innovation are all together and interdependent on each other. Got it. So, Mr. Abhay, when we talk about, with Maruti, Suzuki Motor, what happens is that, data has become a very crucial element in all sectors today. How does data analytics help in, making those informed decisions for leaders in this industry?
So, when we particularly talk about the management development or learning and development function, I think that is something where you are responsible to drive the developmental energy in the organization. Okay, and where is the gap? What kind of gaps need to be filled up? What are the competency, skill, attitudes, behavioral gaps you have in your organization? I think the analysis of entire ecosystem of learning and development in any organization, data helps a lot. So, data as a process, but also as a competency, the developing the data analytics in your employees, so that how to interpret the data, how to analyze the data, how to take the informed decisions with the based on the data analytics. I think that is something which every organization needs, whether it's a startup or whether it's a mature organization. You need to develop that kind of competency in all your employees. So data definitely not only helps in taking the informed decisions, but it also helps in identifying the way forward of your organization, aligning your strategic mission, your company objectives with the employees' objectives and their career goals, their succession planning, their performance and potential evaluation. So everywhere data is playing the key roles. In addition to this, if we talk about use of data analytics in management development, I think how do we ensure that your core values of the organization, the strategic values and your core values are becoming part of the DNA of the organization. I think that is something which is very important. She touched upon the A1 culture of Amazon. So the entire organization like Amazon has conceptualized from a garage about 30 years back, and today they talk and think the same way the way they started. Am I audible now? Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So how do you drive that kind of a DNA? I think your leadership principles, your core values plays a very vital role in that. And how do you analyze that your DNA is percolating across the organization, across the geographies, in each and every individual is performing and behaving on day-to-day basis on the based of the aligned to the leadership principles and core values. I think that is something which drives the organization, which keeps the organization sustainable. So these are my hopes. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
I mean, everybody understands the importance of data analytics, and as Abhay just mentioned, it's a core competency required for our organization. One should look at data not only in terms of the numbers, but what story they tell. Lot lies behind those numbers, and how are you looking at them objectively? Certain set of numbers will show a rosy picture where, you know, your top line or some matrix looks good, but when you really evaluate on the bottom line, are you really faring as good? So, and while of late I see data analytics has just become one key buzzword, and there's a different department that's being created. I totally believe not just looking at the numbers, but the analysis is very important in all the functions. Be HR, be product, be operations, be sales, finance itself. I think everybody should be very savvy and have that analytical bend of mind, because ultimately being in the business and being whichever department one chooses to be, taking the right decisions, and it's no more about just your gut feeling. It's all about taking data-driven decisions, because lots is at stake. So everybody should develop that understanding. And just to contextualize in terms of in the development, management development programs, I think it is a very important core technical subject that everyone should understand. It's not important that you're very great in creating the spreadsheets, but having that understanding, having an eye for the detail, and picking up the right information is extremely important.
True, true. Nitin, your aspect on this, when we again talk about, in an era where data is massively exploded in today's date, how do you see, because earlier people used to have data, but it wasn't of that importance that it is being given today. Everything is data driven. You can reach your audience, or you can reach the people that you want through data. How do you think that this data and analytics can help make the leaders make more informed decisions for the betterment of the organization and the culture?
Okay, I have a confession to me. First of all, yes, data analytics is a buzzword. Everybody is talking about it. But if I ask some of the people in the group, in the team, that how many of us have the entire employee records of people updated on HRIs? I think I
was seeing in the audience that any of them would have that. Doubts.
You know, the reality is I worked in Tata Group, I worked in Standard Chartered, HSBC and startups. The problem continues to remain the same. Okay. Second point, you do a lot of data analytics, but what is the result coming out of it? You know, sometimes it also becomes a fact that data analytics has to be done, because if I have made, as you were talking about spreadsheets, I have 20 data points. Too much of data analysis leads to paralysis. Okay. My simple point is, let's understand one thing. What are 2 or 3 important factors that impact your decision, and have data around that? Because when you have too many spreadsheets, too many data. So in data analytics, what's more important is to understand what are the factors which are very critical and go in depth of that. I have 20 data points. Okay. They're not leading to any outcome because many of the data points are conflicting in nature. If these 20 data points are something that have, say, from a impact perspective, the lowest impact on the outcome. And you have those two data points, which you have not actually factored in, but have more than 50% impact on the outcome. Now, if you have not done that, what will be the outcome? So important here is that how are you keeping yourself focused on being effective and going into the depth? I think one of the problem in startups that we have is that you have too much data. I think as you were rightly talking, you have actual teams which are only working. A lot of people from IITs, BITS Pilani and everyone are being hired who end up doing Python, SQL, SQSS to take data decisions. Data science teams are there. But the real element is, one, are you focusing on the right metrics? And how are you ensuring the people out there are making sense of that data? Because context becomes very important in all of those things. I will give you a very simple example of data analytics. Okay. Japan GDP output and rain in India has a coefficient correlation of 1. What does it mean? It means that whenever it rains or whenever there is a high rain in India, GDP outcome in Japan, from data standpoint, it's a very right data and nobody can challenge it. But the point is that, are they correlated from a standpoint of context? I think that is one element we all forget, because context and depth of understanding around what two variables you're adding and you're managing becomes very important. So this is my personal feeling. When we start talking about data analytics, I think focusing on what limited, but depth becomes very important.
I actually, that line of yours is stuck in my head, that with data analytics, too much data can lead to paralysis. So, understood. Your point's fully taken. When, since we're talking about these strategies, since we're talking about these management, development programs, Sulbha, if I come to you, what do you think, according to you, is the role of strategic thinking when we bring out, out in the public, that how does it help in, strategizing and making the talent that you are, working with? What role does it has in making it a better in the organization?
So again, strategic thinking is a very big buzzword and spoken a lot about. But in the business context, and that comes from my own personal experience of working with the Big Four and being an entrepreneur and now with a startup, is strategic thinking is all about thinking on the feet, looking at all the variables and understanding the impact of those variables and then taking the decisions. It doesn't work going with the wave, this kind of businesses are working, or this kind of skill set is hot, let's have people, or let's invest here. I think what works best for you, for your organization, for your people, and if you're able to make sense of all of that, that's really the strategic thinking. And I had once written that it's not about just having just a plan. Strategic thinking is all about having plan A, B, C, D, E, because you have to think 10 steps ahead. Because in the current world, when the variables are so many, and in one of you who invest in stock market, you can keep watching the stocks going up and down. So there is so much of a variability, and within so much of speed and variability, if you're making the right decisions, that is what strategic thinking is. If you're able to think ahead of your time, of your peer group, and if you're able to evaluate more options, that's what strategic thinking is. And it's extremely important in today's world, in today's business. And it is applicable to all kinds of businesses, not just new age or old age, everything. So your clarity of thoughts, your ability to evaluate options, your ability to weigh the risk and then take calculated risk, all of this is part of strategic thinking and extremely, extremely important.
So how do you think, how much is it relevant or how much apt is it in this modern or in this contemporary management development program training?
Very important.
How much, what is the process that, if you can, let us go through it, then what is the process of that strategic thinking in today's contemporary world? Because where everything is naturally changing, we are at a different aspect altogether when we come to a post-pandemic era. how important or how crucial is the role of strategic thinking?
It's extremely important, like I said, and new age, all kind of businesses. How do you do that? I think, like I said, understand the variables impacting your business, your environment, understand the risk associated with each of them, plan ahead. Something will work, something will not work. Things are very, very dynamic. And if you can think ahead, what could be the, social, economic, political scenarios, what will impact, a particular government comes, doesn't come, wins with the majority, doesn't win with the majority. So many things. I mean, you have to be aware of the environment in which you are operating, apply that lens of logical thinking, and like I said, evaluating risk, and then you come to, decisions. And like I said, not just plan A, B, C, D. That's really that's the process that one should follow to be able to apply strategic thinking at workplace.
Absolutely. Sudip, your thoughts or your comments on how or what is the role of strategic thinking in today's modern era?
Reema, it's ironical that as a coach, many times we are given a mandate by the stakeholders. Boss, for these guys, I want them to be strategic thinkers. And trust me, I have no clue how to get somebody to start thinking strategically. I think the key word is thinking. And I'll again choose to use an analogy. COVID time, my daughter, I have a young daughter, and her schooling was happening. And because of COVID, I get to see what's happening or what is being taught. So here it's morning time and the teacher says, today I'm going to take a quiz. So my daughter is superbly excited that, Papa, quiz. And you don't prompt, you don't prompt, I'm going to answer. And I'm quietly observing, and what the teacher does is she flashes on the screen 4 geometrical figures, basically a cuboid, a cone, a cube, and a cylinder. And here I am preempting that, hey, now what is the question which will get asked? Probably what is the name of the shape? How many sides does it have? Which has got the largest area? Because I remember when I was in school, those were the questions which were asked, and I was very well preparing myself that, hey, this is the question which is going to come. But surprisingly, when the teacher asked the question, that was not the question which was asked. The question she asked was, hey, which shape can you roll? Which shape can you stack? Which shape can you slide? And when you say strategic thinking, I think here's the key. It is about thinking, and it is not about knowing.
Understood. Mr. Abhay, when he spoke about his example of how, with a personal example, how there were things to learn and how there were things to unlearn. What was being done maybe 20, 30 years ago is changing drastically, to be honest. How do you see in nurturing these young talents from where you were earlier when you used to see, for example, when we used to see boomers, we used to see millennials, they were still working. But when we come to Gen Z, they need a work-life balance. They are looking forward to, where they're ready to work hard, but they also need their own time. How do you see this evolution of continuous change?
Change we can imagine, but frankly speaking, if I take my examples, when I was doing MBA in my college about 30 years back, and whatever we thought, maybe it our very wild thinking that things will change like this will happen. But in reality, believe me, things have happened much more faster, much more advanced, and beyond imagination. So sitting here, if I talk about how things will change in next 20 years, 30 years, how the millennials will look like, and what will be the challenges for the millennial when they enter into the middle age, very difficult to forecast. But one thing which we have understood over a period of time, that you have to develop your resilience, you have to be agile, you have to think, take as it is and work on that and move next forward. Don't look backward, look forward only. I think these are a couple of things which today's millennial or Gen Z needs to understand and move fast without any thinking, and look the present and future as a very optimistic. I think these are a couple of things which I feel that the young leaders, the young generation need to focus on.
Look, I have a very different view. When we say that the young generation is looking for 9 to 6 job is not true. Work-life balance, I think it's all a function of what is the ambition of an individual. Let's take an example of Oyo founder or Zepto founder, 24, 25. I've literally seen them working 18 hours, 20 hours. Okay. There are examples from the past. So more than making it a generational issue, I think it becomes very important for us to help an individual realize that you have a choice to work 9 to 6. You have a choice to work 18 hours, whatever you want to do, because everything has an outcome. I can't be thinking that, okay, I want to be a founder, or someone was saying that I want to retire at the age of 40, but I only want to work 9 to 5 job and I want lots of money and lots of, wealth. It is not possible. I mean, be realistic about the outcomes that you want. If you are okay to only invest that much, let's understand it's a competitive world. Okay. If you are not there, someone else is trying to do your job. Hence, it's a choice you're making. There's nothing wrong in choosing a 9 to 5 job. But then be mindful what is the outcome you're going to get out of it. Right? Because competition always. I remember when I was I passed out and 89% you would get admissions in SRCC. Today, 89% won't get you admission in any of the decent colleges in Delhi. Competition has gone up. So people have to be realistic about it. And I think when COVID ended, right, 2022, we are a product and a SaaS company, tech company. We were the first ones to ask people to come to office. And that was the time when some of the big companies like Misho and Swiggy and all that, work from home is the new reality. You don't need to come to office. We'll meet once a quarter at Goa, we'll party. The reality is that today almost every company is realizing the cost of work from home on the individual's learning. I'll give you an example. Today you have a conference or you have a Google Meet. You have 5 people in the room and 5 people are on Google Meet. And most of them have their cameras off. If you are anchoring the meeting, you will realize after 10 minutes, you have to nudge yourself. Oh, people on the call, do you have anything to say or talk? And you will imagine that half of them will not contribute. Now, how is this hybrid working or working flexibility from home helping the organization or the individual from learning? Because you're not there in front, I won't even consider you to be there because I'm only seeing 5 people in front of me. So all of these, at the end of the day, is choice that you end up making, and even when you say, okay, work from home is a reality, it is a reality. But for certain roles, if I'm in a cross-functional team, a cross-functional ever-evolving problem statement I'm solving, you can't afford 2 people to be there. So I think some of these things are very contextual in nature and only relevant to a certain point. We can't make a larger-than-life story around it and say that, okay, the younger generation doesn't want to work. Yes, they want work-life balance, they want priorities, but at the same time, they are also should be mindful of what are their ambitions. You can't affect 9 to 5 job when you're only wanting to retire at 35 with a villa or going to Miami or something. It can't happen.
I understood the answer. On that thought, we have 38 seconds left. So I would like to, open it for the audience. If anyone has any questions to ask, our panel would be more than happy to answer them. If there are any questions. Okay, there aren't. Okay, you have, yeah.
We can do our work in hour also, or we can do in 9 to 6 job also at 18 hours. So it depends totally on how efficient we are.
Absolutely.
We can earn lots of money in age of 35.
Absolutely, you can. But you have to understand that when you work in a team and when you work in an organization, you often work in a team or where your inputs and collaboration and problem solving is required. I may want to work 1 hour, yes. if you are an algo trader, if you're office trader, yes, you can work for 1 hour and make tons and tons of money. But I think the point here is very simple. If you want to make a career and you want to do it, yes, the choice is that 9 to 6 job is effective. Whatever you get out of it, yes, because it's a very, very competitive world. If you are not someone else is doing, and an organization, I'm not saying that it becomes a criteria for you that if you are working 9 to 6, you will not grow, you will grow. But if there are better talent, if there are better contributors, they will get. It cannot become a yardstick that 9 to 6 is a criteria for not selecting you, but I'm saying outcome is. But when you work in a team, it becomes very important for you to understand that the 1 hour that you are available, maybe others are not available. You're right.
Thriving becomes very important. Thank you. Thank you all our dear panelists. Our time is up. And thank you so much for the lovely audience to hear us out. Hope you had an insightful session. Thank you.